Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hope that your break was refreshing. You had a chance to get your coffee, your tea, your water, whatever you are drinking at this point in time. We probably have some people from the West Coast joining us now, given the time. We're looking at just 10 after 8 over there. So if you are just waking up and joining us from the West Coast, welcome. Happy to have you with us. Again, a very big thank you to everyone that's attending. Again, this event's only possible because you guys are here, and you enable us to attract, obviously great people like our next speaker, who will be joining us in just a moment. We have Marina Gracen-Farrell, who's going to be speaking to us about creating internal localization services to guide your organization's global success. So she's going to be joining us momentarily, and I think she's coming in now. Hi there, Marina.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here with us. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Great. So from what I understand, you're in San Diego, one of my favorite cities.
Oh yes, and you all should come and visit, although it's cloudy today, but the beach is waiting for you when the sun comes back.
Yeah, well, isn't it always cloudy for like an hour in the morning and then it just burns off? Isn't that like the magic of San Diego?
Oh, but you don't know about May gray and June gloom.
Gloom, I do.
But you do, yes. Like San Francisco, but only for 2 months, and then it's glorious.
Fantastic. In transparency, my brother lives in San Diego, which is why I've grown to love it. So it's absolutely fantastic. So I won't take up more of your time. I know everybody wants to hear you speak, not me. So I'm going to turn it over to you. And again, like I've done with all the other presenters, I'm going to hop in about at time. So you'll see me turn on my camera, and that's the cue that will move to Q&A. All right. So everyone, please don't be shy, ask your questions. And remember, we do have live questions during the QA session. So again, I encourage you to build up your courage and turn on that camera and get in here. So please, I guess, take it away. Marina, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Brian. And I've been watching Loc from home for quite a while, and it's really kept us going over the pandemic. And everybody that's watching, I've been telling people, if you can't make it so early, go and sign up anyway and get the recordings, because there's so many great presentations. So I'm really honored to be here, and I'm really excited to talk about something I hope will be helpful to people. I know it's not an easy thing being on buyer side and starting out. And so Brian, I'm going to start up a slide presentation. This is my first time using this incredible Remo. So you'll need to guide me. I'm going to start it from the, after I do a little bit of an introduction, I'm going to turn on the slide presentation, and hopefully you can get that turned on for me. So, and it's wonderful to be here because the incredible value of Loc from home being free is a way for everybody to see all these great presentations. And for those of us that don't have a budget to use for conferences, the value is immense. But there's a lot of things you can do, and especially if you want to go from absolutely nothing and build something of value. That's what I'm going to talk about today. And building in some of the concepts we've been hearing. Empathy. How do you empathize with the client? So everybody that's on buyer side, that's on vendor side, I think there's something there for you today. So I'm going to start my presentation, and I'm going to do the, let's see. So I'm going to do the.
Any guidance to get you through?
There. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen.
Perfect.
Screen. Got it? All right. So this presentation, very simple, creating internal localization services. And I advise everybody to go back to Loc from home in previous years. I see there was a great presentation, I think in February, a young man was talking about building corporate services, going from zero to hero. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to talk about it in similar terms, but I'm going to talk about the importance of creating empathy, becoming an advocate, and trying to champion these kind of services throughout your organization. A little bit about me. My name is Marina Gracen-Farrell. Brian, you had it almost right. But so I work with Pearson. I've been here 13 years on the buyer side, but I've been on the vendor side. You know, I got started back in the late 90s, and I worked for ILE, and which became Lionbridge, and I got to know things hands-on. I was a desktop publishing publisher, and then got to be a manager of that, and I kind of went around to the different LSPs at the time, and also got involved in web development. I think it's important to get involved in different processes. I think you get a really well-rounded education. Speaking of education, I do have certifications, Certified Localization Professional and Localization Project Manager. And where that comes in, those are low-cost certifications from Localization Institute, which I highly recommend. And it helps give you process that you can't otherwise get. When you get hands-on, you get a certain kind of process, but when you get certifications or any kind of university type of education, that really helps build your information. And also, I have a pet project that I call Localization Explained, and it's conversations, explanations about localization, and that's the really fun part of what I do. It's not associated with the work I do for the company I'm at now, and of course my views are my own, but this is sort of like, I can't prevent myself from talking about localization and explaining it. I think I've found myself to be an explainer, and we're going to see why I think that is very important. Any information you have, it's really important to convey to those who don't have it, non-localization people. And I find my mission is to be a guide and an advocate, open the eyes, open empathy to this incredible potential in global markets. Here's the situation. Now, I don't mean to offend any of my dear LSP friends, but when you put yourself out there with the title localization manager or whatever, you get hit by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of helpful suggestions. Hey, can we do your services? Hey, can we do your services? And this is what happens. And this is the situation I came upon when I started at the company I'm at now. There were so many, processes that were just ad hoc. There were so many random this and that. And when you fractionize things, when you silo, when you just take all of this, bringing in all these different LSPs, individuals, goodness, Google Translate, it's out of control. There's no coordination, no oversight, and spend, who knows. And when you investigate some of these, I wanted to make sure I knew what I was dealing with. I went and I saw not industry standard pricing, not industry use of technology, no TMS in some of these. And the point is, what is important is to find out what is the company doing. When I set up an internal localization service, the very first thing I wanted to do is to see do an analysis and find out. And this is what I found. Now, the solution is to gather everything together. It's called a centralization type of solution. This is not an easy prospect, but this is sort of like the big goal. Full localization services, coordinated, connected. And so every part of the company can be getting great use of reused assets, as we know, in translation memory savings. We'll have consistency. Hopefully there's a terminology that's being used and rolled out. And for all parts of the corporation, there's something to be gained. And again, this is not an easy prospect. It takes time to build and time to push it out. And what I'm going to talk to you about is not so much a internal department that's fully developed and everything in-house. I'm very well aware that many corporations do that so well. What I propose and what I've done is a very lightweight solution where we work with the vendors as the external provider. They maintain the TM. We don't have to pay for, per se, Trato Studio in-house. And having this lightweight solution has been really helpful because as the person driving this, as the SME and manager, I'm able to get what I need through these external vendors. So how do you get started with this? Say that you're at a company and you're aware there needs to be some kind of control, some kind of way of pulling all this together. And I've talked to people in various corporations, and when I've been in conferences, it seems to be pretty commonplace. What I found is really, really helpful to get started is to get the information out quickly and effectively. Many companies have an intranet, as ours does. That's a place to set up an information portal. Put the contact information. How do they get a hold of you? Request forms. Create helpful articles that help to teach how localization works. And then write in processes and policies. And then while you're going through this work, always keep your success metrics and make sure that you can prove as you go along you're doing cost savings. And that's the beauty, of course, of using a really well-established LSP, language service provider. And they're the ones where you can request, okay, I want to pull TM savings for Q1 and then all the way through the business year. Find out at the end, how much have you saved? And then write articles about it and push that out to the company. Here's an example of portal I've created. And I've masked the name of the vendors just as a, just for their protection. And the way that you can put together this portal, you can have a place for the articles, guidance. I did a lot of work working with the people in the regions to create guidelines for languages. French, French-Canadian, traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese. And it's important to have guidelines, and then you can create terminology lists of the best keywords, and then you can go to each of the region and get sign off from all that. And you'll see on this, I have articles about how to get ready for global markets, and even making a statement. Why do we translate? And you can take advantage of so much information out in the internet and through very amazing companies that, for example, you can Google the can't read, won't buy. Common Sense Advisory did an incredible comparison of languages and why certain languages, all languages, if you can't read it, you most likely won't buy it. And that's a really good gem of wisdom to educate your peers at your company. And of course, you're always going to want to write articles about how to save money and how to save the company's prestige, and just the basics about what you need to know. And when you do this kind of information and have it in a centralized place for all of the company to see, you're creating resources and you're creating trust, and they get to know what the value is. Like I said, when you do this kind of presentation, when you create this kind of portal and then you're putting everything into it, think it in terms of steps to creating a program. When you start off, it's going to be the initial program. When you seek out your vendors, you want to find the preferred vendors. You can get definitely recommendations from many different places. Put together an RFP. Work with your global procurement department, and they're the best ones. and then put all of the, say, top 5, top 10, put them all through an RFP and find out what are the best prices, best practices, make sure that they have adequate technology. You'd be surprised to see, even in this day, there are maybe 1 or 2 LSPs that do not use TMS, translation management systems. So it's really, really important to find out, and the RFP process is a great way to find out best in class. And in that initial program, important to create a terminology list. I went around to all the different regions because there's so many words for different terms. And so I wanted to make sure that the word in simplified Chinese for brave is exactly the word that we want to convey instead of the opposite of fearless. And then you can go on to the advanced program. Bring in a translation quality process. And you can bring in influencers outside the organization and get to know the really key personnel that need to hear this message. Finally, optimal. This is the pie in the sky. The internal localization department. And I know many corporations do this, but this is not always as easy as that seems. I think this is a good goal. Well, what do you need to get there? Well, the first thing, like I said a little bit ago, you need to identify what the situation is. And now at this point, you want to identify where are the gaps of the localization information. Are there some managers that have the wrong idea? I often kind of joke with my colleagues in my networking groups that Google Translate is an amazing tool, but it's done a big misservice where a lot of people think it's just that simple. And to be honest, that's been sort of my blockage through the years, is that so many of the higher placed individuals that don't really understand how this stuff works, they just assume, well, just use some kind of tool. It's automatic, isn't it? Truth is, it's not, and it takes constant tweaking and adjusting and getting better. So identify the gaps, find out those people who need to know some more, and then offer to them the information. And you're going to have a lot of fun doing it. I absolutely enjoyed, and I really like the feedback I get. People really enjoy to hear this, especially if they've never heard these terms before. You can do presentations, lunch and learns, and then finally, keep explaining every single quote. I make sure that everybody knows you've got leverage at 100%, and some of these are fuzzy matches. And then if something is wrong with that estimate from that LSP, I go back and I make sure, why is that? So you can keep improving that process. And now keep going. I don't think we ever stop. Publish your success metrics. Show the before and after success stories. Publicize the return on investment. Get C-level to see what you're doing. Will they respond favorably? Hopefully. Maybe not. This is where it's very important to keep building with partners and allies. Identify these champions. Find the advocates. Some will come and go. There's no guarantee. And especially with the way corporations are shifting, you move on to the next. Build partnerships with suppliers. I have to tell you, the most success I've had is my LSPs. I consider them to be partners. And then this is a very, very important metric that really kind of shows it to even the higher level colleagues. Show value with the localization maturity model. Here's an example. You can do ranking. Let's say your company started at 0. And when I say localization maturity levels, I mean 0 is nothing. 1, getting some steps. 2, more efficiency. 3, centralized operations. 4, mandated by the CEO and all the C-level. And 5, wow, fully optimized. So this way, if you do this kind of ranking and showing where you are, where they are, I think this really is a powerful way to show where we need to go. And of course, as you know, Facebook, Google, they're way up there with their localization maturity level. And not because they've done it for so long. The reason is they've done everything with increasing efficiency, centralizing, and keep getting better to the point where C-level has mandated these operations and they can get to be fully optimized. A driver for global success are going to be little bits of issues throughout the company that you're going to want to pay attention to, and you're going to provide solutions with your program. Guidance. Products and services are not globally designed. There's errors in product failure with testing. A lot of cases, there is no testing. You're missing out on savings in quality, perhaps, because you're not using TM. And the TM savings, the use of the best practices, and we keep looking to see where can we improve. Maybe you're not doing analysis. Maybe your development and releases are always at risk for global audiences. You have no coordination, you're redundant, you're wasting time and money. And of course, you're not leveraging to get those TM savings if you're not reusing assets. Now, to keep going in this, you're going to need some help from the outside. So one way is to build your network. And this is good for everyone anyway. You want to be getting to know people on the outside, to bring in the information, and to have kind of a support group. What's the best way to do networking? I'm going to tell you, Local Lunch is one of my favorites. I'm co-ambassador of Local Lunch San Diego. So you all can come to San Diego. We meet every month, and it is very informal, but we share information. And then when you get into conferences like Look From Home, Gala, Look World, you can learn things there. Education, of course, there's wonderful places to get certifications, the universities, Monterey, Miss, keep getting yourself education. So I want to thank you. I wish you, your organization, great success. And it might be time, is it time, Brian, for Q&A?
It definitely is. So thank you so much for being basically spot on the time. It's fantastic. And we do have a lot of questions that came in, and a lot of people have been upvoting those questions. So we'll get right to them, so we won't keep them waiting. This is an interesting one. Is being creative enough to become a good localization project manager or expert? Or are there other skills that are crucial to succeed? Do you think there's a golden rule?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But this is really interesting because back in the day, nobody ever said you can be creative. It was always, you have to be heads down. You have to get through everything because there's so much work to do. And I think in a lot of the jobs I've had, and part of the reason why I've gone from, from starting as a desktop publisher and getting into web development and so forth, I have a degree in graphic design. I've always wanted to be creative, but somehow I found myself leading projects. Wow. So I think be creative and find ways. And that's going to, I tell you what, I think that's going to make you more successful than the hundreds and thousands of people that are heads down, heads down. They burn themselves out. There's no joy in their work. And I think you can do a great job. I think you need to be aware and learn as much as you can. I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to do this work. But I think being aware of the things you love to do, and maybe if you started as a PM and you're not liking it, maybe that's telling you something you need to do otherwise. Does that answer your question?
I think it definitely does. I think that was a fantastic answer. So thank you for that. And you know what they say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So, I mean, I think that was perfectly in relation to that. One of the other questions we have, oh, and just incidentally, we will be picking the best question to receive a book. So there is a giveaway. I just wanted to kind of put that in. So keep asking your questions, please. And again, if you have a live question or you want to ask a question live, please let us know. Just ping it and we'll get you to be able to turn on your camera. So the next question, what success metrics would you recommend? How can you make sure success was achieved through quality localization strategy, not through quality SEO, brand, ads, or content strategy? Wow, that's a fantastic one.
Now that's pretty good because that person's actually kind of explaining, or just kind of like explaining with the question, because there's different ways of measuring metrics. So yeah, SEO is one way and so forth. There's traditional metrics. I think in context of what I'm talking about, I'm dealing with people that know nothing about localization. I'm serious, and I'm talking about brilliant people who are excellent at what they do and amazing. But the problem is they've never been around languages, and they assume a lot of things work the way it does in English. Okay, that assumption gets them in trouble. So metrics, make it as simple as possible. So the traditional way, I like TM savings because you can run it on any TMS and you can generate these reports and you have direct result. Anything else is something that you see, okay, we're going to tweak the SEO and next year we have this amount. And I know there's dashboards that get that kind of direct kind of thing, but I look to see immediate success ways of graphing. And that's why I like LMM, Localization Maturity Model. Even though it's a concept, you show you versus the others. Does that explain?
I think it does. It definitely shows what you've just explained provides the perspective between you and the competitors or other companies. So I think that definitely is clear. Yeah, and I think that that definitely addresses the question. Amelia, if there's something else that you wanted to know, if it wasn't clear, just let us know and we'll try and clarify. Moving on to the next one. Marina, your lock lunch is probably the most influential in the world. So, yay!
What?
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
What's next for the community that you have built?
Oh my gosh. Everything.
I think you have a fan.
Yes, well, and it's evolving, and what we try to do, and I don't know if Phil, my wonderful co-ambassador, is in this, and then Brian Cho, Phil Weisberg. Well, the thing is, it's ever evolving, and we're trying to, find out what does everybody want and what can we do, and we just keep getting new people. And I guarantee when we go back to the world, brave new world without COVID, and we're going to be in restaurants, I promise you, and we will have a laptop there and keeping plugged in with a Zoom, because all of our precious global people, members that keep coming into these with us, they have been just amazing. And I can't even tell you how many countries, dozens and dozens and dozens of countries, and the most wonderful people. And I think they like the idea of being connected to California. So, and they have a good time. So what's next? Lots.
All right. Still keeping it under your hat, but I understand it's ever evolving. So that's fantastic.
Well, we don't know yet is the answer, actually. It's going to happen as it happens. And then with the interviews with Localization Explained, we've got some great people lined up that are going to be coming in, and we're going to be talking to them. And then also we're going to do some interesting, really short videos of, what does it mean to do this and what does it mean to do that? How does a website get localized? Well, you have to put the strings in. You have to do all that. We can do it super simple and show people.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have hi from MIIS. While creating a localization strategy, how do you make sure that the rest of the languages that you don't speak are being high quality? Oh,
well, and that's an interesting thing. I kind of have a battle with colleagues sometimes because this kind of ties into that question. We'll have somebody say, well, my brother speaks Spanish and he didn't think that language, that translation was very good. The problem is, and you'll see translators, I love them dearly, we could not do work without them, but you'll see kind of a pride about, well, I have the best this and I have the best that. When we have our translators who work with us, we have an understanding with them. People on the outside who are not translators do not understand that we have certain words that we use, terminology, and the source has to be really good. If your source text has idioms or has some things difficult to translate, who knows how that's going to turn out? So to get translation quality, you have to start with something good, and then you have to have good practices in there, and then you have to provide guidelines. Do I want a certain kind of style for this? Maybe I have a conversational style versus a medical terminology versus legal. So there's a lot of factors that go in to getting quality translation.
Okay, I think that if I interpret your answer, just to put it into layman's terms, providing guidelines to the translators effectively is what's going to enable you to get back what you want.
I think, yeah, having guidelines, and then also make sure your source content, spend some time with, I think you can spend some time with the translation team to determine if that source content is, you know, plain English enough or whatever. You've got to start with good to get the best result.
Yeah, it definitely is not easy to translate the bee's knees. So it's it's definitely one of those things.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, we have another question. Any advice on how to successfully translate relevant localization concepts and jargon for your company internal stakeholders?
And I'm not sure if I understand the question. So you're saying, what's the best way for? You're saying how to explain localization terms? Is that the question?
Terms and concepts to those who are probably not familiar with these concepts.
Absolutely, and that's a mountain. That's a big, actually, that's a wonderful undertaking. And I do that all the time. So the articles I've written, I have dozens of articles where I just take one concept at a time and I kind of dig in and dig in and dig in. So the classic one, and I'm going to be publishing this probably on LinkedIn at some point. What's the difference between G11N, L10N, I18N? I think there was an explanation in this conference. Every conference does it. Every LSP does it. Everybody talks about it. And what I see are a lot of words. This, that, everything else. I like to show examples. So a colorful graphic that shows this is where it started, this is where it ended. Wow, it really got messed up. And that really helps. So I think explaining these terms, you can say there's 13 characters between I. You can do that, but then show exactly what goes wrong. And I think that is universal. It really helps, especially with non-localization people.
Perfect. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit if you get that on LinkedIn. So
that's so fun.
I'll look forward to that.
Cool.
We have another one that's come in. Can you share for which companies you worked at on the vendor side?
Oh golly, well, back in, let's see. Well, so I was at Quark. That was vendor side. That, I don't know how many people know that company, which was sort of like InDesign, the early precursor of InDesign. So let's see, Quark, and I did a layout for Celestial Seasonings in Boulder in the 90s. That was my very, very first French, Canadian, and Spanish of a herbal tea label. And then I designed a German tea label, Cloud de Thé. Nice. And then, golly, so then for vendors, Isley, Lionbridge, Sykes, which became SDL, Delta Translations. Oh, and my favorite, I can't think of their name anymore. It's been so many years. So many of these companies went out of business and became acquired. So anyway, so that's a smattering of those companies.
Thank you very much for that. What's the best way, in your opinion, to integrate junior translators?
Okay. You know, I think there's a place for everybody. And I think junior translators, and I don't like that word junior, you know, beginning, people starting from someplace. I know people who are, you know, middle-aged people who were teaching languages and want to become a translator, that kind of thing. I think the best thing is to do networking, to learn everything you can. I know there's some amazing translators out there who do a lot of branding and marketing. These days, to get jobs, probably, you have to really put yourself out there, get yourself known, get in interviews, and really talk about things. It's hard to do that when you're brand new, though, and I understand that. So surround yourself with supportive peers, and then find a niche. Find something that you do that's different than everybody else. And then learn as much as you can. Join ATA, go to those conferences. I think just kind of immerse yourself. I hope that answers the question.
I think that's, well, even if it doesn't, it's great advice. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you for that. We actually have another question from Amelia, who asked a question earlier, and this is one I very much like. Are there any international brands whose overall localization results or strategy you admire and get inspired by?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? There's so many of them. Well, and I guess in thinking in terms of, you know, the biggies, and they seem to do their work so effortlessly. And the truth is, they've been doing it a long time and they invest a lot of money. So of course they're successful and they take localization very, very seriously. So of course my favorites, of course, Apple. You know, I can get my phone and I can work with so many languages, and they seem to really get it. And then the really fun types of companies, the problem is there's so many of them, and that's not a problem. That's an exciting proposal that there's so much. And it's kind of a good thing to say too, that any company that's not investing in localization, look and see what everybody else is doing.
Great.
Oh, and also I want to say real quick, look at the international side of American businesses and force your browser to go to those places. Go to Amazon.ca and look at what they're doing, and go to all those outside companies and find the beautiful products that exist outside of the US. It's a really eye-opening thing to do.
Great advice. We have two more questions, and I think we're just about okay on time. So we'll try and get through them quickly. What are the top 3-4 skills, in your opinion, needed today versus when you started to build a localization program? Thinking about new tools, work processes, soft skills, etc.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. You know, nobody ever asked that before. I think, gosh, how do you pare it down? I think empathy for yourself and for your peers. I think if you ever get into a space where you're feeling like, I got to be competitive because I've got to do more, be collaborative. Develop those soft skills of listening. In fact, these days, when you want to succeed, you're going to succeed best by supporting everybody and having something where everybody can work together. So soft skills of listening. You know, we know you're passionate, otherwise you wouldn't be on this call right now. And taking that, all of that drive and putting it into the most productive way, supporting each other, keeping your eyes open, and lift the world with this incredible global information. Besides, learn everything you can, because it's going to come in handy.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And one more popped in, so we're really going to try and get through these. Do you have any principles you can share regarding your communication style when connecting with LSBs?
Oh, okay. Well, principles, I don't know. I think LSPs, it kind of depends on who it is. I think if you make sure that you're on the same playing field, that they think of you as colleagues, partners, and we all kind of work together. And I think the skills of asking them to listen to what you need. And if you don't get that, go back to them and say, you need to listen to what I need. I think sometimes you have to be very direct and get everything, if you see something wrong in a DTP delivery, tell them right away and work with them to get things. If your savings, your TM savings aren't quite right, go back to them. So it's an open-ended exchange.
Perfect. We are at time, so unfortunately, I think there was a couple of questions left that we didn't get to, but I would love for you to be able to browse them and select your favorite question, because we are giving away that book.
Oh, it's a wonderful book. I am so excited for whoever gets that book. Okay, now, do I tell you later, Brian, or how do I do
No, you can announce it right now if you like. That's I appreciate it if you did.
Oh, and this is so, okay, you gave me the hardest task of all in my entire career. Oh, okay, how much time do I have to figure this out?
A couple seconds. So I'll tell a joke while you kind of browse through.
Okay.
So why do hummingbirds hum? Because they do not know the words. That's all I had. That was my material. So so if you have an answer for us, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, so I really like, let's see. And some of these are statements and not so much questions. I don't know if people understood. Yep. I like Remy Oxenfond's How to Know Which Areas of Localization You Should Specialize in the Various Stages of the Localization Career, because that's something I didn't get a chance to really explain. What are the areas? So in the beginning, you have to initialize and find out what you don't know. And then as you go in, the years change, the company changes, and so all of that changes. So perfect. That's my answer. Do you see that, gentlemen?
I do not, but if you can say his name one more time, that would be fantastic.
Okay. I put it in the chat.
Great. Thank you very much. And Marina, wow. Thank you for being here with us. Obviously, you had a lot of interest. There was a lot of questions, a lot of interaction. So thank you so much for your presentation. It was great.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a true honor and great to talk to you all. Take care. Peace out.
Thank you. Thank you.